Have you ever noticed your vision blurring slightly when you're anxious or under pressure? It's not your imagination. Stress can literally change the way your eyes function. After the age of 60, this effect becomes far more noticeable and potentially damaging. The connection between your mind and your eyesight is stronger than most people realize, and today we'll explore exactly how stress alters blood flow, nerve response, and even the moisture balance in your eyes, and how you can protect them. When we think about stress, most people imagine the heart, the stomach, maybe even the skin, but very few realize how profoundly it affects the eyes. It's something I've seen countless times, both in clinical practice and through the research that's emerged in recent years. The human eye is one of the most sensitive organs in the body, not only to light but to the chemistry of emotion and the hormones released during stress. And after the age of 60, this delicate system becomes far more vulnerable. Let's start with something that often surprises people: the way your body physically reacts to stress. When you feel anxious, worried, or overwhelmed, your brain sends signals down the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, which triggers a rush of stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. These hormones are designed to help you survive danger. They increase blood pressure, sharpen reflexes, and dilate the pupils, all to make sure you can see threats clearly and act quickly. It's a survival mechanism deeply embedded in our biology. But when this system stays switched on for too long, it starts to wear down the tissues it was designed to protect. In the eyes, those tiny blood vessels that nourish the retina and optic nerve are particularly sensitive. Under chronic stress, these vessels constrict, reducing the amount of oxygen and nutrients reaching those fragile tissues. Over time, this can lead to inflammation, blurred vision, or even the acceleration of age-related eye conditions such as glaucoma or macular degeneration. Many older adults notice their eyesight fluctuating, sharper on calm days, hazier when they're worried or tense. And that's not coincidence. It's the visible effect of invisible chemistry. You see, the eye's blood supply is not very forgiving. It depends on a delicate balance of pressure between the inside and outside of the eyeball. Stress can tip that balance. Adrenaline increases heart rate and blood pressure, which in turn raises intraocular pressure, the fluid pressure inside the eye. For someone in their 20s or 30s, the body usually compensates. But after 60, those self-regulating mechanisms are slower and less efficient. The drainage channels that control eye pressure can stiffen slightly, and the eye tissues themselves may not recover as quickly. This is one of the ways chronic stress can quietly contribute to optic nerve damage, often without any pain or immediate symptoms. Many people describe moments where their vision suddenly feels tight, or they see small bursts of light when they're stressed. Those are signs that the eyes are responding directly to the body's stress signals. Even the small muscles that control focus and movement can become strained. During tension, they contract, holding the eyes in a fixed, rigid position, which can cause headaches or difficulty focusing on near objects. The irony is that our eyes evolved to move constantly, scanning, adjusting, relaxing, but our modern lives, filled with screens, worry, and mental overload, trap them in stillness. Now imagine a person in their 60s. Their eyes have already adapted through decades of reading, exposure to sunlight, screen glare, perhaps even years of wearing corrective lenses. The lens inside the eye is naturally stiffening with age, making it harder to adjust focus quickly. Tear production often decreases, leading to dryness. When stress is added to this equation, every one of those age-related changes is magnified. The body releases cortisol, which can reduce tear secretion and increase inflammation in the glands that keep the eyes lubricated. That's why many older adults experience burning, itching, or watery eyes when they're anxious. The eyes are literally trying to defend themselves against the internal chemistry of stress. Another important point is how stress influences the autonomic nervous system, the part of the body that controls things you don't consciously think about, like breathing and pupil size. Under chronic tension, the sympathetic branch, the fight or flight response, dominates. This causes persistent pupil dilation. While that may temporarily improve distance vision, it also reduces the ability to see close objects clearly and allows more light to enter the eye, often creating discomfort or sensitivity to brightness. After 60, the pupil muscles respond more slowly, so recovery from this dilation takes longer, which can make reading or driving at night particularly difficult. There's also a fascinating interaction between stress, sleep, and visual health. Stress often disrupts sleep, and poor sleep reduces the eye's ability to repair oxidative damage that occurs naturally during the day. The retina is one of the most metabolically active tissues in the body. It uses enormous amounts of oxygen to convert light into signals the brain can interpret. When sleep is cut short, that recovery process is incomplete, leaving the retina slightly more vulnerable each day. Over months or years, this can accumulate into lasting damage. Older adults who already have reduced circulation or mild eye disease may find their symptoms worsening simply because stress is eroding their nightly repair window. I remember speaking to a patient, a retired teacher in her mid-60s, who began noticing occasional flashes of light and increased blurriness whenever she was under pressure caring for her elderly mother. Her eye tests showed mild changes in the retina, nothing catastrophic, but what was striking was how her vision improved each time her stress levels dropped. When she took a brief holiday or practiced deep breathing exercises, her symptoms eased. That pattern was no coincidence. It was the perfect demonstration of how the visual system mirrors our emotional state. Her recovery wasn't due to new glasses or medication, it was her body returning to balance. What's happening here is not just mechanical but biochemical. Cortisol, when elevated for long periods, can actually alter collagen, the protein that forms the structure of the eye, particularly in the cornea and sclera. This can subtly affect the shape of the eye over time, leading to changes in how light focuses on the retina. It's a gradual, almost invisible process, but it's one of the reasons people may notice their prescription changing more frequently in later life, especially during periods of prolonged stress or illness. And it's reversible to a degree. When stress levels normalize, the body's repair systems can gradually restore much of that lost integrity. Stress can also play a major role in eye twitching, a phenomenon called myokemia. Most people experience this at some point, that annoying flicker in the eyelid that seems to appear just when you're tired or overwhelmed. For older adults, this can last longer because nerve conduction slows slightly with age. While it's harmless, it's a signal from the nervous system saying that it's overloaded. It's like the body's way of whispering, you need to rest. Ignoring it can lead to deeper fatigue, eye strain, and headaches. We also need to consider the immune response within the eye. The eyes are protected by a specialized immune system known as the ocular immune privilege. Under normal conditions, it prevents excessive inflammation that could damage vision. But chronic stress weakens this barrier. Cortisol initially suppresses inflammation, but over time, the immune system becomes resistant to it, leading to microinflammation in delicate areas such as the cornea and retina. For an older adult, this can accelerate dry eye syndrome and even influence cataract development by increasing oxidative stress in the lens. All of this might sound worrying, but it's not all bad news. The eyes, even in later life, are remarkably adaptive. They respond positively to small improvements in circulation, hydration, and relaxation. One of the most powerful ways to counteract stress-induced damage is to simply restore the body's natural rhythm through deep breathing, outdoor light exposure, and regular movement. These activities increase parasympathetic activity, which helps reduce eye pressure and improve tear production. The difference isn't always immediate, but over weeks, many people notice their eyes feeling clearer, more comfortable, and less fatigued. Let's imagine another real-world scenario. A man in his early 70s, recently retired, spends much of his day worrying about finances and reading the news online. He sits for hours, barely blinking, scrolling through articles, eyes fixed on the bright glare of his tablet. Gradually, his vision starts to blur. He blames his glasses, but an eye exam shows only minor changes. His problem isn't optical, it's systemic. His stress hormones are keeping his pupils dilated, his tear glands underactive, and his eye muscles tight. Once he learns relaxation techniques and limits screen time, his symptoms ease dramatically. What's happening here is that his nervous system is finally switching from survival mode to restoration mode. That's the crucial point. The body cannot heal while it's defending itself. Chronic stress tricks the body into believing it's constantly under threat, redirecting energy away from maintenance and repair. The eyes, being so energy-dependent, feel that loss immediately. The blood flow to the retina decreases, oxidative stress increases, and the tissues begin to stiffen. But the opposite is also true. When you calm the body, when you breathe deeply, walk outdoors, laugh, or spend time in nature, the eyes benefit almost instantly. Circulation improves, oxygen returns to the tissues, and the natural tear film stabilizes. You might not think of your emotions as part of eye care, but they are. Emotional stress alters posture, breathing, and even how often we blink. Under tension, blink rate drops significantly, especially during screen use. Fewer blinks mean less moisture spread across the cornea, leading to dryness and irritation. After 60, the meibomian glands, which produce the oily layer of tears, already tend to be less active. Add chronic stress, and they may partially block, causing redness, stinging, or the feeling of grit in the eyes. These symptoms often drive people to use artificial tears, which can help, but the real solution lies in reducing stress and restoring natural tear production. One aspect people often overlook is diet and hydration. Under stress, digestion slows, and many older adults eat less or forget to drink adequate water. This directly affects the eyes because tear fluid and vitreous humor rely on proper hydration and electrolyte balance. Chronic mild dehydration can make the eyes appear dull or sunken, and it worsens dryness. Similarly, stress can increase cravings for caffeine and alcohol, both of which dehydrate the body further. Rehydration and balanced nutrition can make an enormous difference, sometimes within days, especially when combined with relaxation practices. So, what can someone over 60 take away from all this? Stress management isn't just about mental health, it's a form of vision care. Every time you relax, you are literally improving blood flow to your optic nerve, reducing intraocular pressure, and protecting your retinal cells. Each slow breath, each moment of calm, is like medicine for your eyes. It's not a metaphor, it's physiology. When we consider the broader picture, it becomes clear that eyesight after 60 is not merely a matter of genetics or aging. It's a reflection of how the entire body has been treated, how much strain it's endured, how often it's been given a chance to rest. The eyes are the window not just to the soul, but to the nervous system itself. If they feel strained, foggy, or tired, it's often because the body has been carrying too much for too long. So next time you find yourself squinting at the evening light or rubbing your eyes after a stressful day, pause for a moment. That discomfort is communication, your body's way of asking for balance. Relax your shoulders, take a slow, steady breath, and allow your eyes to soften. That simple act reduces adrenaline, lowers pressure, and begins the process of healing. It's remarkable how quickly the body responds when we give it permission to rest. Stress may be invisible, but its fingerprints are everywhere, even in the way we see the world. After 60, that connection becomes more intimate, more honest. And by learning to calm the mind, you don't just protect your vision, you sharpen it, you brighten it, and in many ways, you allow yourself to see life more clearly than ever before. What's fascinating is that the eyes don't just react to stress, they remember it. The longer the tension persists, the more the visual system adapts to a state of strain, as if expecting danger all the time. It's almost as though the eyes themselves begin to live in defense mode. The muscles that control focus hold that tension day after day, and the nerves transmitting signals to the brain start firing more rapidly, preparing for action that never comes. Over months, this low-level vigilance becomes normal, and people often mistake it for simply getting older. But what's really happening is that the nervous system has forgotten how to relax. Imagine someone in their mid-60s sitting at a kitchen table, reading the morning paper. The words look slightly blurred, and they blink a few times, thinking it's just fatigue. But what's happening behind the scenes is far more complex. Their cortisol levels are slightly elevated after a restless night. That hormone has tightened the small arteries behind the eyes, reducing the blood flow just enough to alter focus. It's subtle, invisible, but real. The eyes are telling a story that the person can't quite hear, a story of years spent in a state of quiet stress. We live in a world that feeds stress constantly: screens, notifications, financial pressure, health worries, and even loneliness. After 60, each of these factors carries more weight because the body no longer recovers at the same pace. The eye tissue that once bounced back from a sleepless night or a day of tension now takes longer to restore. The tiny capillaries that once delivered oxygen efficiently begin to narrow more quickly under stress, and the nerves become more sensitive to changes in pressure. This isn't just a theory, it's a biological truth that many experience daily without realizing the connection. And there's something else: the emotional component. The human brain processes about 80% of its sensory information through the eyes. That means our emotional state is directly tied to how we see. When you're afraid, the pupils dilate to gather light, the eyelids lift slightly, and the world looks sharper, more intense. When you're calm, the pupils constrict, depth perception improves, and you see detail more gently. So, when chronic stress takes hold, it literally alters how we perceive the world. Everything becomes slightly brighter, harsher, and less comfortable. It's not just a feeling, it's physiology. In older adults, this can create a feedback loop. Stress makes the eyes more sensitive. Sensitivity makes everyday light and movement more uncomfortable. Discomfort causes worry, and the cycle continues. Some people even describe a sensation of eye fatigue that never ends, a kind of heaviness behind the eyes that no amount of rest seems to fix. That's often the body's way of saying the nervous system hasn't been allowed to reset. The impact goes deeper when you consider the brain's visual processing centers. Stress hormones like cortisol don't just circulate through the blood. They also affect the neurons in the visual cortex. Over time, chronic exposure can dull the brain's ability to filter visual information efficiently, leading to slower reaction times and reduced visual clarity. It's why older adults under stress may find it harder to track movement or adjust focus quickly when shifting from near to far vision. It's not that the eyes themselves are failing, it's that the brain is processing those signals under the weight of tension. I once spoke to an optometrist who described something he'd noticed repeatedly: patients in their 60s and 70s who complained of poor vision, but whose eye exams looked surprisingly normal. What he began to realize was that many of them weren't suffering from structural eye disease, they were suffering from visual stress. Their eyes were healthy, but their nervous systems were overloaded. When he encouraged simple relaxation practices, breathing, gentle blinking, warm compresses, many of these patients reported clearer vision within days. The improvement wasn't just psychological, it was biological recovery. It's remarkable how something as simple as relaxation can change the chemistry of the eyes. When you calm the body, blood vessels widen, delivering oxygen back to tissues that have been deprived. The tear glands resume their natural rhythm, and the muscles that hold the lens begin to relax. It's almost as if the eyes take a deep breath of their own. This process can reverse years of subtle tension, not instantly, but progressively, like sunlight returning after a storm. Another fascinating area is the link between stress and oxidative stress, the imbalance between free radicals and antioxidants in the body. The eyes are particularly vulnerable because they are constantly exposed to light and oxygen, both of which can produce free radicals. Under chronic emotional stress, the body produces more of these reactive molecules while simultaneously reducing its antioxidant defenses. Over time, this accelerates the aging of the retina and the lens. Cataracts, for instance, form partly through oxidative damage to lens proteins, and prolonged stress can hasten that process. Similarly, age-related macular degeneration, one of the leading causes of vision loss after 60, has strong connections to systemic inflammation, an inflammation that chronic stress quietly fuels. This means that stress management isn't just about feeling calm, it's about biochemical protection. Every deep breath reduces cortisol, every walk outdoors increases oxygenation, and every good night's sleep gives the retina time to repair. These aren't abstract wellness ideas. They are direct medical interventions that preserve sight. Think about the role of light itself. Older adults often spend less time in natural daylight and more time indoors under artificial light. That reduces the production of melatonin at night, disrupting sleep, which in turn elevates cortisol, a perfect recipe for sustained eye strain. Natural light exposure during the morning helps reset circadian rhythms and improves both mood and visual function. When people step outside, even for 15 minutes, the eyes adjust their focus distance, the pupils respond to dynamic light, and the extra oxygen helps wash away the chemical traces of stress. That's one reason outdoor activity, even slow walking, can noticeably ease eye discomfort. But there's a deeper emotional layer that's often overlooked. After 60, many people experience life changes, retirement, loss, loneliness, shifts in identity. These psychological stresses may not seem physical, yet they manifest physically, especially through the eyes. Tears are, in many ways, the body's emotional release valve. When that emotional pressure is suppressed, tear flow often decreases. That's why you'll find many older adults suffering from persistent dry eyes without an obvious medical cause. It's emotional dehydration as much as physical. The connection between mind and vision is so intimate that one influences the other continuously. Anxiety narrows attention, literally narrowing the visual field, while calmness expands it. You can test this yourself. When you feel at peace, you see the world in full, peripheral detail. When you're anxious, you lock onto one thing, everything else fading into blur. That narrowing over years becomes habitual. The eyes forget to wander, the gaze becomes fixed, and fatigue follows. Restoring that wide, natural gaze is one of the simplest ways to undo the effects of stress. One of the most powerful recovery practices for older adults is gentle visual exercise combined with breathing. Slowly shifting focus between near and far objects, blinking naturally, and aligning breath with gaze movement can retrain the eyes to relax. This isn't alternative medicine, it's neurological retraining. It reactivates the parasympathetic system, lowers heart rate, and reduces intraocular pressure. The same mechanisms that cause stress-induced visual strain can be reversed by deliberate calm. Consider another moment, a woman in her late 60s tending to her garden after months of being indoors. The sunlight feels too bright at first, her eyes watering slightly. But as she keeps working, the discomfort fades. The eyes begin adjusting again, relearning how to adapt to changing light and focus distances. Over time, her sensitivity decreases, her vision feels clearer, and even her mood lifts. That's the eye-brain connection at work, rediscovering its natural resilience. It's also worth mentioning how the cardiovascular system intertwines with this story. The eyes are a mirror of blood flow. Stress constricts the tiny arteries that supply them, but it also affects the heart, the vessels, and overall oxygen transport. Older adults with hypertension or diabetes are especially at risk because their blood vessels are already under strain. When emotional stress is added, those fragile capillaries in the retina can become even more fragile. Regular relaxation, gentle exercise, and hydration aren't just for heart health, they're essential for maintaining the microcirculation that keeps the retina alive. Some studies have shown that chronic stress can even affect how the brain interprets visual contrast, making the world appear slightly duller or more washed out. This subtle shift can influence mood, creating a feedback loop between emotion and perception. But again, the good news is that the loop can be broken. As the body regains balance, colors appear richer, light feels gentler, and vision often becomes more stable. People describe it as seeing clearly again, not just with their eyes, but with their entire sense of being. In practical terms, this means that eye health after 60 depends as much on managing stress as it does on glasses or medication. A balanced routine, good sleep, hydration, Moderate exercise, sunlight, mindful breathing directly supports the physiology of sight. These simple actions are the body's antidote to the chemistry of stress. It's easy to underestimate this. People assume that blurred vision or dryness are just signs of aging, but so often they're signals that the nervous system has been under siege. Once calm is restored, even partially, those symptoms fade. I've seen it in countless individuals. A retired engineer whose constant worry gave him chronic eye twitching that disappeared after he learned to meditate. A grandmother who found her sensitivity to light easing after she began walking at sunrise every day. These are not miracles, they are examples of biology doing what it was designed to do once stress releases its grip. What all of this shows is that vision is not static. It's dynamic, constantly shaped by how we live, how we breathe, and how we feel. After 60, the stakes are higher, but the potential for improvement remains just as real. The eyes respond to kindness, to rest, to patience, to gentleness. They respond to how we treat ourselves. So, the next time you notice your eyes feeling strained after a tense conversation or dry after a long worried day, recognize it for what it is: communication. The body isn't failing you, it's signaling you. It's asking for slower breathing, for softer focus, for a return to balance. Even 5 minutes of calm can begin to undo hours of tension. In the end, the relationship between stress and eyesight isn't a mystery. It's a dialogue, constant, honest, and deeply human. Our eyes are not separate from our emotions. They are the front line of how we experience life. Every time you soften your gaze, every time you breathe deeply and let the tension fall away, you're not just calming your mind. You're restoring your vision. And maybe that's the quiet truth hidden within all this science, that seeing clearly, especially after 60, is not only about the health of the eyes, but about the peace of the heart behind them.